Dana White gave out his first ever Bite of the Night award at UFC Vegas 89. A human being bit another human being so bad in the cage that he was disqualified and his opponent was paid a bonus. UFC Vegas 89 was a very interesting night of fights. My name is Angelo. This is We Want Picks, and I'm going to recap everything that happened at UFC Vegas 89, Ribas versus Namajunas. But before I do, look at our boy Jakey. Jakey boy, my partner in crime, the other guy on this channel, spent $5,000 to go to Vegas, rent a couch, because in the Apex, you sit on couches. Go to Vegas, rent a couch, and watch Amanda Ribas fight live. And his shirt was so dazzling that not only did he make the UFC broadcast more than one time, Twitter, social media in general, went wild with snapshots of my buddy, Jakey boy, and his insane shirt. He does have a vlog coming out. He vlogged his entire trip. I'm looking forward to seeing that. So make sure you are liked, subscribed, and you'll be pushed that notification when that comes. I personally am very curious as to what it's like to watch a fight inside the Apex. It's obviously very different than a full-blown arena. It only holds 100 or so people, and you get to sit on a couch with a luxury meal watching these fights maybe 10 feet from the cage. So keep an eye out for Jacob's vlog when he gets back from Vegas. Let's take a look at the bets. They were not great last night. I felt like last night was a very sketchy card going into it. If you're a premium member, you saw the warnings on the website. Don't trust this card. Little sketchy card. This is not the comeback card. Don't go crazy. But here are all the bets I had. Billy Quarantillo was the most disappointing one. I'll run through these very quickly, but that is by far the most disappointing one. And the line movement was an indicator. I bet on him at minus 140. He turned into an underdog before the fights, and there wasn't an injury. Obviously, there was some speculation at the weigh-ins. What's up with his arm? And he literally tweeted, "I'm just a weirdo. There's nothing wrong with my arm. I'm just strange. I'm awkward." And I don't think there was anything wrong with his arm. I do think he's not very good. I think he's beating people with just forward pressure. And Youssef Zalal was cut by the UFC, put some time together, put the rounds in the gym, became a better fighter, came back, and looked like the better fighter. So that was a disappointing bet. Justin Tafa, we'll break that fight down in detail. I only had a quarter of a unit on him because it was heavyweights, but that fight, he had his moments. There were times where I'm like, oh shit, he might pull this off. Trey Ogden, easy bet, should have put more. Miles Johns, easy bet, should have put more. AJ Dobson win inside the distance, decision, no action. I only lost that bet because the dude was finished. Typically a very durable guy. I did not see that coming. And then we had the round lines. Quarantillo, who's supposed to be this busy, durable guy who constantly comes forward, finished. Padilla, not a guy that's particularly wild. Pajuelo, pretty tough guy. Neither one of these guys ever finished before. Of course, it's a sketchy card. Of course, on a fight night with nothing but decisions, we're going to get our finish in that fight. Bets weren't spectacular last night, but they have been good overall. Here's every single week so far for 2024. We've had 10 events. I am up almost 6 units, so lost a little bit last night, but I'm still way up. Almost 6 units and a 15% return on investment from every single bet that I have put on the board in 2024. You can unlock all the bets. We have some bets up already for UFC Atlantic City. Just go to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member. It is only $10 for an entire month. And obviously, 2 not so great cards in a row don't undo all of the good work we have done so far this year. We did have the best DraftKings ownership projections in the game last night. If you are a daily fantasy person, if you do DraftKings fantasy, you know just how important these numbers are. And this might be our largest margin of victory here, 1.99. The next closest was 3.17. I mean, that is a spectacular margin for us. We continue to have the best DraftKings ownership projections week in and week out. We are proud of those. Again, if you are a premium member, you will get those for every single event, and they will be preloaded in the optimizer. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top. It's only $10 for an entire month, and that will get you through UFC 300. Let's talk about the fights. And I had to watch the fights on my phone. I went to a March Madness party. One of my buddies had a party, a whole bunch of people there. They're drinking, they're hanging out, and this is me. People were taking pictures of me watching the fights on my phone and then sending to me being like, "Thanks for coming, bud. It was fun hanging out with you today because I'm doing this for you." so that I can film this video, so I can know what's happening with the freaking bets, so I can be informed. So next time I break down that bum, Billy Quarantillo, I remember he's a bum. So this was me at a party watching fights on my cell phone. This was everybody else raging, playing Rage Cage. Very confusing game, a chaotic game, but a ton of fun. But I was inside watching fights for you. So do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Costs you nothing to do those things. The goal this year is potentially 30,000 subscribers. We cruised to 20 last year. 30 would be spectacular this year. So like, subscribe, do all the things. We genuinely appreciate every single one of you. Let's talk about the fight specifically now. And my question is Mick Parkin any good? And the first round of that fight, he was not. He was not good in the first round of that fight. Mohammed Usman actually looked very good in that fight. He was coming forward. He stayed pretty controlled, didn't get wild with his striking, didn't shoot any of those embarrassing shots, and that might have been the difference. Mick Parkin himself said on the microphone, I expected him to wrestle a little more. And maybe he should have. Maybe coming forward, landing some good shots, and then holding him against the cage for 30 seconds at a time, a minute at a time, would have been the difference. This was a very close fight. Usman won the first round, lost the next two. And the commentators were praising Mick Parkin. Like, all of a sudden in the second round, he was this phenomenal laser accuracy striker with great... No, man, Mick Parkin is big and slow. He did not look good. He won this fight. He was a lot of people's most confident pick on this card. And I get it. Because going into this, the narrative was, well, Mohammed Usman sucks, and Mick Parkin, very technical. Did he look very technical to you last night? I don't think he looked bad, but I didn't see that and be like, he's pretty good. Ooh, Mick Parkin's going to be a problem for a lot of people. I did not see that at all. And he was supposed to be the big wrestler. This was a boring, miserable heavyweight fight. This is why people don't like heavyweight fights, because you're going to get a couple of guys that aren't particularly fast that are just sort of swinging. And this wasn't even a slug fight. This was just like pot shot, move, pot shot. By the way, the question is Mick Parkin any good? And I don't know. I am curious on your thoughts. Obviously, he won this fight. But Mohammed Usman's a pretty green fighter. He started much later in his career than most people do. And Mohammed Usman won that first round and had success. The only reason he lost the next two rounds is because he didn't mix anything up. All he was doing was coming forward, 1-2. Oh, did I connect with some power? Okay, let me try to find that again. Didn't attempt any takedowns, didn't even circle, just straight forward. So Mick Parkin won this fight. Good on him. Anybody who bet on him, congratulations to you. But I just don't know how good he is yet. So while his record is good and he continues to win in the UFC, we should monitor his matchups very, very closely, because we might get a juiced Mick Parkin line in his next fight because people think he's good. And we could take advantage of that. But for now, congratulations to Mick Parkin. He needs to be busier. He needs to do a little more. Mohammed Usman almost won that fight. And then we had Igor Severino versus Andre Lima. And Igor Severino looked great. This guy was a 2-1 underdog. Andre Lima was a lot of people's confident pick. He was in a lot of parlays. But Igor Severino came forward, landed the meaningful strikes, was bullying Andre Lima, got the takedowns, a lot of takedowns. Igor Severino, the 2-1 underdog, looked great in this fight. He looked absolutely spectacular. Until, and that is if you're on a TikTok, that until is paying homage to a guy that I like on TikTok. He tells these wild stories, but he says until. Anyway, Igor Severino moving forward, getting the takedowns, winning this fight. And for no reason whatsoever, decides to bite Andre Lima. A real bite. Look at that. That is an actual bite. On the left is when he bit him. He had him against the cage. He had his back, basically. He's controlling him. And this is into a fight that he was winning. And he's like, you know what? I hate this guy so much. I'm just going to bite him. Makes no sense. Absolutely insane. Made no sense that he did that. And even the commentators, before we saw the images to the right, were like, did he actually bite him? What are we talking about when we say bite? Maybe it was a crossface situation. And I have been wrestling and coaching wrestling for 30 years. And I have seen many bites on the wrestling mat. Damn. On the wrestling mat. Typically, it's like a crossface and their mouth is open and it's like, it's an impression. That's typically where it happens. If it is a true bite, it's somebody getting their ass kicked and they're just furious. They just hate the cradle. They hate the crossface, and they're just a crybaby, and they're going to bite. I have never seen somebody winning dominantly and then choose such an egregious foul for no reason. No reason whatsoever in a position where it didn't matter. Igor Severino deserved to lose that fight. He deserved to be disqualified. But Andre Lima shouldn't be celebrating this as a big win. What he did do, though, is go to the tattoo parlor immediately after the fights and get that bite mark permanently tattooed into his arm. Pretty wild move if you think about it. So Andre Lima stepped into the UFC octagon, made his official debut, got bullied, got smacked around a little bit, then got bit. And then immediately after he got bit, Dana White goes to him, I'm going to give you 25 grand. That sucked. You didn't deserve that. I'm going to give you 25 grand. He then runs to the nearest tattoo parlor at, I don't know what time, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock at night, runs to the nearest tattoo parlor, gets I got fucking bite bonused tattooed around the bite mark, and then the actual bite mark was tattooed onto his arm. Dana White saw this and said, I was going to give him 25 grand, but this is incredible. I'm giving him 50. So this dude just made $50,000 from a bite and a tattoo. And good on him in that he had fun with the situation, made light of it. I don't know if this is the first bite in UFC history. I've been watching since 1993. I've seen almost every single fight ever. I can't remember. I remember a lot of disqualifications. I remember Tank Abbott trying to throw somebody out of the cage. That's the only time I've ever seen that happen. And this might be the only bite. I cannot think of another bite. So good on him for immortalizing this situation on his arm, and he made 50 grand to do it. So wild situation, made freaking no sense whatsoever. And I am curious if they keep Igor Severino. I mean, he looked good. He's a talented guy. And honestly, this loss might help us if he does stick around the UFC. If the UFC doesn't say that was egregious, that was insane, you're never coming back, which they might do. But if they don't do that and Igor Severino comes back, we might get some good value on him in his next fight, because people might forget why he lost and they'll just see loss and bet the other side. But either way, wild fight. Igor looked great and then bit his way to a disqualification loss. And then we continue to have controversial decisions. It was an interesting night of decisions. And the problem is, anytime I come on here and talk about decisions, half the people agree and half the people are like, you're an idiot. How could you? And that's exactly what's happening with this fight and the main event. Because we had Montserrat Rendon, and she fought Darya. Darya, the much better striker, Montserrat, the much better grappler. And this is mixed martial arts. This isn't the kickboxing championship. And I am afraid that's what's happening. At least that's the temperature of the comment section. When we had the Isaac Dogarian decision last week, that was the temperature. The temperature was, well, even though C-Rod only landed 3 more strikes, those 3 strikes were pretty big. Yeah, he gave up 4 minutes and 11 seconds of control time, but those extra 3 strikes mattered more. And I'm worried as an MMA fan and as a wrestler, so I do favor wrestling, I'm worried that this is turning into the kickboxing championships. Because yes, if we look at this fight specifically, Darya was winning the striking exchanges, and then Montserrat would body her, get her to the ground, and win those exchanges. Did she maul Darya on the ground? No. But is that the only thing that matters? Is striking the only thing that matters? Do takedowns not count? If you slam somebody to the ground and then you get mount and you're in full control, you are dominating that person. Does that not matter? Does it literally mean nothing? Because when you stand up, the other person comes forward and lands a few more strikes? And that's a genuine question. And I'm more of the old school mentality. I mentioned I've been watching fights since I had to go to my cousin's house on the Descrambler in 1993. I've been seeing every single fight ever. Before there were rules. Or actually, the only 2 rules were no biting, Igor, and no... Actually, there was just no... eye gouging. Because nut shots were perfectly allowed. If you are new to this sport, go back. I forget his name, but there is an Asian gentleman that just got his nuts lit up. Just boom, boom, just his nuts were smashed and pulverized. Perfectly legal. So I've been watching when there were no rules or limited rules all the way through now, where there's different commissions and different commissions have rules. Different commissions have scoring systems. Some commissions have the new 10-8 scoring, where you don't have to do that much to get a 10-8 round. Other commissions don't have that. Some commissions think a finger on the mat is a ground opponent. Others are, it has to be weight bearing. You need a third point. It's kind of a mess. But being of the old school variety, wrestling mattered a ton. Wrestling probably mattered too much before. You could get the piss beaten out of you, have your face completely mangled, smashed in, get one takedown at the end of the round, and win that round. But I feel like we have overcorrected, and now wrestling means nothing. Because I would argue Montserrat Rendon won this fight. And we'll talk about the main event. We'll talk about the main event because I'm on a different side on the main event as well. But I would argue Montserrat won this fight. And I know people are going to come and people are going to say, but she didn't do anything. She landed almost no strike. But doesn't grappling matter? Isn't it mixed martial arts? Isn't that the point of this? You can't be great at everything. And I guess all you have to do to win decisions now is have decent takedown defense and busy striking. That's all you have to do to win decisions now. Because if you have decent takedown defense and busy striking, you will win decisions. Because getting taken down means nothing. And that is a bit frustrating for me. I do think takedowns matter. I think the fact that you could be losing a fight and then you come forward, you dominate your opponent by getting takedowns. You dominate your opponent by pushing them to the ground, imposing your will, making something happen. I think you should be rewarded for that. Now, if you're getting mauled on the feet, that's a whole different situation. But if you're getting outstruck, but nothing dramatic, you're not getting knocked down, you're not a bloody mess, nothing meaningful happened, and then you body your opponent and you control them, well, what did that round look like? If we have a 5-minute round and you took them down, controlled the wrestling for 3 minutes, and they controlled the striking for 2, why does the striking automatically win? Why is that more important? And that's a genuine question. I am worried we have overcorrected in this situation. I would have given this to Montserrat Rendon if I was a judge. And this is what that looked like. She was outstruck on the feet, and then she had more than one full round of control time. She went 3 for 6 on takedowns. And I get it. And this isn't a hill I'm going to die on, meaning this isn't what an egregious wild. This isn't the Isaac Dolgarian decision. That was a disgusting decision. That was just an indefensible, disgusting decision. This wasn't, right? This was a close fight. Should have been a split, honestly. I can't believe not even one judge was like, yeah, I think Montserrat won 2 rounds. But congratulations to Darya, right? She didn't get finished on the ground. She worked back up. She made stuff happen. But I personally would have given it to Montserrat Rendon. And thank God. Well, I guess we've learned from experience. So we've been burned, all of us. We have been burned by UFC debuts. Countless UFC debuts. Countless Contender Series guys. Look phenomenal. Have all the talent. Actually get into the cage and then suck. And thank God that has happened in the past. And I've learned from those mistakes because I went into this week thinking that Stephen Wynn, the gentleman on the right, was one of the better fighters on this card. He was one of my most confident picks on this card because he has all the tools. Very good striker, slick grappler, good takedowns, composed, and all those tools. And he just got dogged. Jarno Aarons just moved forward and beat him up. And that's why you cannot trust UFC debuts. And I said this. And it's not like I had a wildly successful night betting, but I did say going into this week, if Stephen Wynn wasn't a UFC debut, I would consider him for the safety parlay. But he is a UFC debut, and we've learned we cannot trust these people. And thank God. It wouldn't have mattered much, but thank God. Because it would have been very embarrassing for him to be one of the legs in the safety parlay. It's one thing to lose a safety parlay because a round line didn't hit. It's another thing to be confident in a specific fighter who goes out there and looks like absolute shit. Jarno Aarons, good on you. First UFC win. Put it together. Came forward. I think Stephen Wynn's the better fighter in this matchup. I just think these debut guys can't handle the actual pressure of actually fighting in the UFC. Or what happens is these young guys see the odds. Oh, I'm a 2-1 favorite. And they think that shit matters. Odds do not matter in the cage. They do not matter at all. Now, you'll get mentally weak people that will see the odds, know they're supposed to lose, and quit on themselves. You'll see people who could care less about the odds. And you'll see people who see the odds, see they're a huge favorite. And just, oh, of course I'm going to win. The whole world thinks I'm going to win. Of course I'm going to win. And I feel like that's what happened here. Stephen Wynn seemed a little out of sorts, seemed a little confused. Like, wait, hold on. Jarno, you're supposed to be gone by now. What the hell is this? But we knew Jarno was a durable guy. We knew he would come forward. We knew he would stay busy. I should have bet the over on this fight, but I didn't because I actually was worried about the Wynn side. But Wynn did show some toughness, but just can't trust UFC debuts. And Miles John has gone back to his wrestling. And now we can trust him. He looked good in this fight. Let's not forget, he took this fight on somewhat short notice. It wasn't insanely short notice. I think he had a couple of weeks, but somewhat short notice. And this is the guy that people didn't trust his cardio. Oh, he slows down. He's got trash cardio, and it's short notice. He's screwed. That's not what I saw in that fight. Yeah, he slowed down a little bit, but that's because he was wrestling so damn much. Had good control on top. Was winging punches. And I think that's why he won his decision and Montserrat lost hers. Is Miles Johns did wing punches. He was a little desperate with the wrestling at times, just hanging on the legs, not getting takedowns. Trying to get a single, not getting it. And he did have some takedowns. Obviously, he had some success, but he had a whole lot of missed takedowns as well. But he would back up and just bomb. Wild uppercuts, big overhands, and just bomb. Miles Johns, I am glad he's back to his wrestling. There was a period of time there where he just stopped wrestling, was only looking for knockouts, and it made it very hard to trust that guy, and I think we can trust him again. I think it makes a lot of sense to look at Miles Johns in some of these matchups and pick him and bet on him. I did bet on him. I didn't have a ton. I only had a half a unit. I was very confident in him. I wish I was a little more confident, but I'm glad he won. He is a talented guy, and I'm glad that he went back to his wrestling base and isn't just all in on the striking. Similar story with Trey Ogden. I was actually worried about the Trey Ogden decision. He had an insane amount of control time. It was like 11 minutes of control time. An insane amount of control time. But I was worried because, and this picture is a great depiction of it, his striking was all backing up. I mean, this guy, he couldn't back up fast enough. He did not want to be shot. He would back up, throw something just to throw it, and then shoot. And he got his takedowns easily, had his control time, and he was doing well there. But I was worried. After the C-Rod fight, I was worried. I was worried that they're like, well, yeah, sure, Trey Ogden got a takedown, but what did he do with it? Because apparently, in today's MMA judging standards, when you get a takedown, you need to be trying to kill somebody. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. And I was worried because Trey Ogden wasn't trying to kill anybody. He was getting a takedown, perfectly happy, camping out. And on the feet, it was clear he was losing the striking exchanges, worried about the striking exchanges, which is why he was backing up, throwing stuff long, and then shooting takedowns. So I'm glad Trey Ogden won. I was very confident in him as well. I had the money line bet on him. I should have parlayed him and Miles Johns, put a stamp on it, bet my life savings, and just played Rage Cage instead of sitting at the table watching fights on my phone, furious. Last little side note here before I move on. The image that we use for all of our custom graphics, this isn't some lazy topology operation. For all of our custom graphics, we get the images from the UFC. And the image we have for Kurt Holobaugh is he's facing forward. And this little skunk spot, that white spot there, I guess it's probably a birthmark. I went to school with a couple of kids that had those. It looks like a bald spot on his UFC picture. So I commented on that. I was like, oh, that sucks, man. He's going to get a bald spot right in the front like that. And he was like, whoa. That's not a bald spot. You slob. It's just gray hair. So good on him. I mean, congratulations. You have great hair at your age. He's 36. Great hair. Billy Q sucks. Sucks. Billy Quarantillo sucks. I'm going to keep saying it. I'm going to keep repeating it. This guy sucks. He's built a career on being busy, forward pressure, durable. That's who he's supposed to be. Billy Q is supposed to be the busy, come forward, durable guy. And instead, what was he? An awkward weirdo who can't string together a combination. Youssef Zalal, who the UFC said, listen, You can't win. Beat it. Beat it. Kick rocks. You can't win. Go beat up some bums on the regional scene and we'll think about it. And that's what he did. He went to the regional scene, beat up some people, stepped up here on short notice, and smoked Billy Quarantillo. Smoked his ass. Made him look stupid as hell. And I was wrong here. I was very confident in Billy. And when the line, he opened at a minus 300 favorite, and that line quickly tightened to like minus 150. Then it hung out there for a while. And then it tightened all the way up to dead even, and for a few minutes there, it even flipped Billy to an underdog. And Jacob was on that side. Jacob had a bet on Youssef Zalal. And Jacob was like, he's the better fighter. He can get the takedowns. He's just the better fighter. And I didn't believe him to the tune of, I bet Jacob $300. $300 I bet him. And I was wrong. Billy Q sucks. And Youssef Zalal seems to be busier. My biggest issue with Youssef Zalal was that he's just so low volume. He lands fewer than 2 significant strikes per minute. A minute. How long a minute? If I sat here silent for a minute, you would be looking at your phone like, what, is something broke? What happened? Did my internet freeze? What the hell's going on here? A minute is a very long time. Most of you can't hold your breath for a minute. A minute is a very, very long time. He only lands 2 strikes a minute. That's how low volume Youssef Zalal is. And that's why I was like, he's not going to win this fight. He throws nothing. He just stays on the outside, waiting, afraid to actually get into a fight. And it seems that getting cut by the UFC is the best thing that ever happened to him because he didn't look like a low volume hang on the outside, afraid to fight guy. He was willing to fight. He was smiling in that cage. He was happy to be back. Good for Youssef Zalal. That's what it's supposed to be. Come get it, make a name for yourself, and beat up these overrated idiot bums. Congratulations, Youssef. And how freaking good is Payton Talbott? How good is this guy? And I know a lot of people loved Cameron Saman this week. A lot of people loved him. I see the comments. People going crazy that Cameron Saman was going to win this fight. Oh, Cameron Saman. For 2 weeks, I've been seeing those comments. For 2 weeks. People were telling Jacob 2 weeks ago, make Cameron Saman your lock of the week. Cameron Saman's going to win this fight. And I don't know why people were so high on Cameron. To me, this was a very close, even fight between 2 young prospects. So to plant your flag and be insanely confident in one of them is a bold move. Obviously, you watch the fight and it's like, yeah, okay. Well, one of these guys is much better than the other guy. And I think what ends up fooling a lot of people is Payton Talbott has like that California, like, yeah, man, whatever happens, happens. Like, it doesn't give off these, I'm an animal. Like, doesn't give off that vibe. Just like a free-flowing, fun, athletic guy. Things seem to come easy to him. So I don't think people trust that he's a dog. We knew Cameron Saman was a dog. We've seen him dog out some fights. We've seen him stay tough. We've seen him hang in there. But we haven't really seen Payton Talbott need to do that. You see him on the regional scene in 1 or 2 fights. He got out-wrestled, then pulled off a late win. But Payton Talbott's good, dude. He beat up Cameron Saman. Finished him, I believe, for the first time, and he looked good. He's insanely athletic. He is very big. These look like people in 2 different weight classes. He's very big. He's insanely athletic. He can do all the things. Hits hard. Like, Payton Talbott is very, very good, and I was surprised the UFC did this matchup because they have 2 guys that are young, fun, that they could market. So they just killed Cameron Saman's career. That's 2 losses in a row for him, and this one was bad. That dude's done. Obviously, they'll throw him down the ranks and try to build him back up. But like 2 losses in a row at this point in your career is not, it takes a while to come back from that. Payton Talbott looked incredible. So hopefully, I want to see him turn into a star. Let's build this dude the right way. He is fun. He does fun stuff in the cage. He's athletic, good personality. Like, let's have him be built correctly. Don't just give him prospect after prospect and see what happens. Payton Talbott is very, very good, and I am curious to see what happens next for him. Karl Williams and Justin Tafa. I had that small bet. I had a $25 bet on Justin Tafa because we watched Karl Williams in his last fight against Chase Sherman. His legs got chewed up, and his takedowns sucked. And in this fight, I would still argue his legs got chewed up and his takedowns sucked. He did have plenty of takedowns, and I have 2 issues with that. 1, Karl Williams was credited with 4 takedowns in the first round, and I don't know how. So obviously Justin Tafa was having success striking, had Karl seemingly rocked. I don't know if he was rocked, but he had him backing up. He had Karl Williams panicking, and then Justin Tafa overcommitted. I think I remember it was a knee. Threw a big knee, overcommitted. Karl Williams grabbed him, took him down. Okay, takedown. And then Justin Tafa would work his way halfway up. Halfway up, not even all the way up, work his way halfway up. Karl never lost control. Still had his hands wrapped, still had the legs wrapped, and would drag him back down. And they would credit him with another takedown. How is that a second takedown? He never lost control. And this is my wrestling hat on. But if I take you down, all right, it's me and you. You're fucked. I'm taking you down. I take you down. You are 3/4 of the way up. But I've got a spiral in, or I've got a leg, and then you get dragged back down to the mat. I never lost control. I was in control that entire time. You never broke completely free of me. You never turned and faced me. I always had something locked. I was in control. I don't get a new takedown every time you get brought back to the mat. And that's what happened here. Ultimately, I think Karl was credited with 7 takedowns. He had 3. He had 1 in each round. The other takedowns were just pushing him back to the ground as Justin got partially the way up. So that's my first issue, is how they count takedowns. It didn't matter, but that just like, I saw 4 and I'm like, what the hell, 4? What are we doing here? My second issue with the takedown situation, actually I'll save that for the next fight because it's more meaningful in the main event. I was going to talk about, yes, Karl took Justin down, but did he? We'll talk about that in the main event. But back to the question of, is Karl Williams good? Well, he certainly is a better wrestler than most heavyweights. He'll stay in your face. He'll stay busy with the striking, but he doesn't have the best striking. He doesn't have the best reactions when strikes come his way. And if Justin Tafa didn't overcommit and didn't throw up flying knees like he's not 260 pounds, Karl Williams may not have gotten those takedowns and may have been in a situation where he's losing striking exchanges to a better striker, because that is what was happening. He was losing the striking exchanges. And then Justin would overcommit because he would have some success, would get too excited, overcommit, he'd get dragged to the ground. Good for Karl Williams. He won this fight. Did what he was supposed to do. He was a 2.5-to-1 favorite. And he looked decent. He looked decent because he worked in wrestling when he needed to. Were they great takedowns? No. Did they have to be? No. And I can't even say Justin Tafa has trash takedown defense, because it wasn't even his takedown defense that failed him. It was his wild, overcommitted offense that failed him. So I guess we'll see. Let's do Karl Williams versus Mick Parkin and just expose one of these guys for sucking. That's what the next matchup should be. Karl Williams versus Mick Parkin. One of them's going to suck. Let's just get that out of our system. And then you could do the 2 losers. You could do losers as in they lost their fight. Mohammed Usman and Justin Tafa. Let Justin try to avenge his brother's loss. And then throw them together. And we'll see what we have. That's what the next match. Sean Shelby, Mick. That's what you should do next. Okay? Mick as in Mick Maynard. Let's talk about the main event. Did Rose win this fight? And I've seen a whole bunch of controversy online. A lot of people feel that Amanda Ribas won this fight. And if I was a judge, if you remember, if we rewind, 17 minutes at this point, I said if I was a judge for the Montserrat Rendon fight, I would have picked her to win, right? I would have scored that fight for her. And if I was a judge for this fight, I would have scored it for Rose. Because I'm consistent. I'm not one of these Vegas judges or some weirdo that watches fights and just makes my own narrative based off of what I said earlier, right? I'm able to objectively look at something and change my mind. And I objectively watched that fight. I had no dog in this fight. Obviously, I was rooting for Amanda because Jacob was rooting for Amanda, but I didn't have any money on this fight. And if I was scoring this fight, I would have scored it for Rose, because I would have said she did have the control time. She had more control time on the ground. To me, the striking was about even. I think Amanda did a great job. She was the one moving forward. If you are in the camp of Isaac Dulgarian lost the second round. If you're that person, then you think Amanda won this fight. If you think Darya beat Montserrat Rendon, then you think Amanda won this fight. Because Amanda was the one, now that this is the Ultimate Kickboxing Championships, right? That's where we are in MMA today. Amanda was the one moving forward. Amanda was the much busier striker. She was marching forward, trying to make something happen. She's the one who had Rose bloodied. It wasn't a ton of blood, but the blood was on the Rose side. The damage was on the Rose side. So she won the damage category because apparently that's one of the only thing that matters. She was the one pressuring forward. She was the one landing the more meaningful strikes, spinning, doing actual work while moving forward. And all Rose was doing was hands low, one big uppercut, one big right hand. And then you have people like Misha Tate tweeting, what a masterclass. It's beautiful watching Rose work. What was Rose doing? Did we see a single combination from Rose? And keep in mind, I think she won, and I'm still trashing it. Did we see a single combination from Rose thrown? Honestly, when was there a combination? It was one strike at a time. One strike at a time. She had a beautiful, well-timed takedown. A beautiful, well-timed takedown. Just boop, drop the legs, bang, got it done. Where I do think Rose won the fight is capitalizing on Amanda's overzealous headlock bullshit. That's why I think Rose won. I don't think Rose won the striking exchanges. I think Amanda did. I don't think Rose won the octagon control. Amanda did. She was the one pressuring forward the whole time. I don't even think I guess she did win the grappling exchanges, but she didn't initiate them. Outside of that one takedown that was beautiful, it was Amanda coming forward, launching side headlocks. And when it really unraveled for Amanda is at one point, Rose was basically completely behind her, and she still reached back, barely had two fingers here, and tried to side headlock her. And all she did was face plant, obviously, because you're not going to side headlock somebody like that. And then she rolled for a knee bar, didn't get it, was on her back. Rose was just hanging out on top, doing little pitter-patter shots to the ribs. Amanda was trying to get a triangle choke. Amanda was trying to get her hips out. Amanda was trying to do stuff on bottom, was sending elbows. But apparently control time matters when it's Rose Namajunas. It does not matter when it's Montserrat Rendon. It does not matter when it's Isaac Dulgarian. It does matter when it's Rose Namajunas. My biggest issue, and again, I would have scored it for Rose because in my opinion, if you're the one throwing the sloppy headlock and you fuck it up and then you get taken down, that's on you. So I do think control time matters. I'm that guy. I score for control time. And I think Rose won this fight with control time. But if I score this one for Rose, I score it for Montserrat in that win, and I scored for Isaac Dulgarian in that win. Because I'm a consistent person. Unlike half of these judges that fight to fight, you don't know what you're going to get. My question to you. We're going to go back to the wrestling. I don't know why we're talking about a lot of wrestling today, but we're going to go back to the wrestling. In international wrestling, so in America, we have folk style. If you go to a high school wrestling tournament, college, NCAA, we had some championships last night. That's folk style wrestling. That shit only exists in America. It's stupid. We should get rid of it and do the international standard, which is freestyle. In freestyle wrestling or even Greco-Roman wrestling, the international standard, if I go to launch you, if I throw a side headlock and I slip, basically what Amanda did. She tried to throw Rose. Her hand slipped. She didn't have the position. She ended up on the ground. If I do that in a freestyle wrestling match and you end up on top, you do not get points for a takedown. You didn't initiate the takedown. So you don't get points for that takedown. That wasn't your takedown. That was my slip. Those are different things. And obviously MMA scoring isn't points for each action. It's not like, ooh, take down 1 point. You have to watch the round as a whole and then decide who won that round as a whole. I think the biggest issue for Amanda and the scoring in this fight was that judges only seem to give a shit about what happened the last minute. You could have somebody dead to rights, 90% knocked out for the first 3 minutes. And then the last 2 minutes, as you start to slow down, in the last minute, things aren't great for you. Everything that happened before that doesn't matter. So Amanda pressuring forward, Amanda having the success striking, Amanda having her own takedowns didn't matter because at the end of the round, almost in every round, she was on her back because she got a little too aggressive, a little overzealous. So I think we should factor, how did this get on the ground? If you're a judge and you're watching, you should. How did this get on the? Well, they got on the ground because Amanda actually tried to do something. Rose didn't try to do anything. She backed up, threw one strike at a time, lucked into a few top positions because Amanda's just too damn reckless. And again, I would have scored it for Rose, but I do think there needs to be much clearer scoring standards. Genuinely clear scoring standards. And I don't think the judges should be there. I think we should move to the hockey model. In NHL hockey, they have the on-ice referees, and then there is a room full of, I think they're refs, right? I don't know if they're refs or judges, but a room full of refs watching monitors of all the games. And if the on-ice ref has an issue or a concern, they point, and it goes back to the room full. They watch it on a monitor, they look at it, and then they call in the decision. Because understandably so, the on-ice ref's like, I can't see everything. I'm at weird angles. Like, I trust the camera more than my own eyes sometimes. So they leave, and they go to the eyes in the sky, if you will. I think MMA should be that. Get those judges out of the arena. The fans, Jacob yelling, hot dog, none of that shit should matter. Your corners cheering for every stupid thing you do, like the Javid Bajarat decision a few weeks ago, none of that should matter. Judges should be watching these fights with no audio, no commentary, no audio from inside the arena, just watching the fights in a room alone with a monitor. And frankly, like an SAT, not only should they score the round, they should write why. It's another 2 seconds. We have a full minute between rounds. Like, relax. They should write, I think Rose won that round because. And then why do you think she won? What's so bad about that? Because the problem is, this rant sounds like this was a horrific decision. I'm not complaining about the decision. I'm highlighting what I feel are inconsistencies. I don't know how you score that for Rose and you don't give Isaac his win a few weeks ago. So I feel it's not insane to have them write down why. Because they don't do press conferences after. There's no accountability. There's not even any insight into how judges score certain rounds. We never get a public statement from anybody. I scored it this way for these reasons. So we don't need to do a 5-judge model. We don't need to do anything crazy. Just take them out of the arena because, frankly, that's a shit view. You know, they're eye level to the fighters like calves. So if I'm a judge and I'm sitting in my seat watching the fight like this, like a human, comfortable, I'm looking at their calves. The judges have to watch the fights like this, looking up, because they're not level with the cage. The cage is elevated, so they're looking up. It's a terrible view. They genuinely have a terrible view of the fights. And these are the people that are the most important people in there. The people who are supposed to have the best possible view. Some commissions, they have monitors. Not every commission. Some commission, they have monitors, and they'll watch the monitors, which I believe is the broadcast, which that's a good step. But it's about the size of this freaking baby monitor. So in my opinion, throw them in a room, give them the biggest TV you have, no audio. They score each round. Same way, we don't need to change the scoring system. Score the rounds they do now and write why. And then later when they release the scorecards, as they do, we can see the notes. Oh, Derek Cleary said he thinks Rose won this this round because of the aggression. Guys, those are my thoughts. I am curious with yours. Leave a comment. Let me know about my rants and how you feel about some of these fights last night. We do have UFC Atlantic City next week, another lady main event, but it should be a good one. And if you want to unlock all the picks, the bets, the round line leans, and the safety parlay for UFC Atlantic City, you can do that now. Just go to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member at the top. It's only $10 for an entire month. $10 for a month. $2.50 a week. $2.50 a week. The sales pitch should end there, but it doesn't, because we have tools like the line movement tracker. This is going to give you the opening odds, the current odds, the win probability, and the line movement for every fighter on every card. UFC Atlantic City specifically, Jamal Emmers with some wild line movement. This guy was minus 110 and then immediately cruised to minus 193. 2-1 favorite over Nate Landwehr. You're also going to get detailed data, metrics, and analytics. Do you value your time? Not everybody that watches this does a whole bunch of research, but some of you do. And the people that do a bunch of research and a bunch of tape study and a bunch of data stuff, well, we did it for you. For $10, you can unlock 38 columns of information that you can use while doing your research, your tape study. If you value your time, let's say it takes 2 to 3 hours to put this together. And unless you're making $2 an hour, this $10 is a shortcut. You're also going to get the DraftKings Optimizer. We talked about earlier the best ownership projections last night, the week before that. We always have the best DraftKings ownership projections. They're preloaded into the Optimizer. And you're also going to get more than just me, more than just Jakey Boy. We have Artem crushing it behind the scenes. And then we have the Pick Doctor. This is an artificial intelligence picking fights at a spectacular win rate. All of this is available right now at WeWantPicks.com. Just click Become a Member. It is only $10 for an entire month. And if you're still hurting from last night or the week before or whatever it is, we'll send you $50. Just go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. Use our link to sign up with any one of our partners, make a deposit, and we send you $50 as a thank you.